Great. Welcome to you. Lovely to have you here with us in the building today, and glad that it's a little bit of warmth on a cold day, and delighted to have you with us. And those of you joining us online as well, glad to welcome you to our time here. We will be meeting again next Wednesday. The usual 12:30 will be open from then until 2, and it'll be a kind of Christmas special version, and we hope that you're able to manage then. And then the following couple of Wednesdays, we will be closed on those 2 weeks. So just flagging that up for you in advance. Obviously, this is Christmas season. People look forward to Christmas in the main for a whole variety of different reasons. And you can kind of check it out. You want to listen into the Stevie Wonder song, What Christmas Means to Me, and so on, from the 1960s, I think that one was. You'll find a whole load of different things that Christmas means this, that, and the next thing to different folk. For some, it's just a good opportunity for a bit of a binge on movies, sit in front of the TV and just be glued to the television, see all the films that come up and so on. Some, it's just a binge on food. Others, it's a kind of traditional get-together with the family. Some, it's surviving the in-laws. You name it, people have all sorts of different views as to what Christmas means. It's sometimes helpful, actually, just to get back to the original and to ask what it is that Christmas meant, the birth of Jesus. What on earth was that all about? Get back to the original and ask Jesus himself. No one is better placed to understand what it's all about than himself. He, better than any, knows why he came. And so today I thought we would simply read from a part of the Bible that recounts the first sermon that Jesus preached. It wasn't a long sermon, and it just started, as good sermons do, it started from the Bible that he had at the time, from an Old Testament book, the prophet Isaiah, and we read this. We'll put it on the screen for you so you've got there. Jesus went to Nazareth, where he'd been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Now, that's Jesus essentially saying, this is why I've come. And this, therefore, really is what Christmas is actually all about. And we do well to listen into that, to take heed of what he's saying. And if you kind of listened into the passage that he was quoting from, there's one word that occurs 3 times. That's the word proclaim. And whatever else was true about Jesus, he certainly understood that a significant part of what he was about was a proclamation. Slightly different from simply an individual announcing something, because behind that whole notion of his proclaiming is the idea that's there from the very beginning of the Bible, which starts off with God saying something. God said, God proclaimed, "Let there be light," and there was light. So when Jesus talks about proclaiming, he is speaking about actually imparting something that didn't previously exist. Imparting through what is spoken, bringing into being something that hitherto people haven't known, in the same way as God said, "Let there be light," and into the darkness that hadn't known any light, there was light through the proclamation. And that really is what Jesus is on about. He's saying he's come to bring into being, in the experience of humanity, in the experience of a darkened world, things that didn't previously exist. And what he specifies in the passage there are these 3 things that we do well to pick up on. First of all, he says, "I've come to proclaim good news for the poor." And he's talking there about essentially the gift that he gives of what the Bible understands by riches. And what the Bible understands by riches are essentially things that money can't buy. You can buy a lot of things if you have sufficient funds. You can, you buy a house, you buy a holiday here, there, or everywhere. But there are some things that no amount of money can ever buy. You can't, for instance, buy a pardon for things that are past. You can't buy the opportunity to relive your past and alter the choices that you made and kind of wind back the clock and live it all over again. You can't buy that at all. That's a rich thing, to have a pardon for all that is past. You can't buy the presence of God. We are made to enjoy company. We're made like God, made to enjoy company. But we sometimes find that we're just on our own, and we would long to know the presence of God in our lives. You can't buy that. You can't go to a shop, and it doesn't matter how rich you are. You can't buy that. You can't buy the pardon of God. You can't buy the presence of God. You can't buy the power of God to live by, nor can you buy that promise that God makes of a future that is better than anything that this world gives. And those are the riches that Jesus is speaking about when he speaks about proclaiming good news for the poor. We'll maybe put that on the screen. Are we able to put that on the screen? Because the second heading is one in which we speak about the freedom that Jesus gives as well. He comes to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, to set the oppressed free. And there are a lot of things that really bind us and enslave us and drag us down and leave us feeling just a victim caught up and trapped by our circumstances. And Jesus comes to set us truly free, to set us free from those things that drag us down, to break the power that holds us and grips us and drags us down, to set us free from that. It is a powerful thing what Jesus brings, the proclamation, the word that he speaks, and you see that illustrated in his life time and again in the ministry that he exercises. He will speak a word that sets a person free, so that a lady who has been bent over double and cannot straighten up for years and years, Jesus speaks to her and she is set free from that which has constricted her and left her so bent over. She's set free, and that's what he comes to give. That's part of what he imparts. And the third thing that he speaks about here is sight. And he speaks about giving sight, the recovery of sight to the blind. And that's not just those who are physically blind. More importantly, it's those who are spiritually blind, who can't see what life is all about, who can't see that this is God's world, who can't see that there is a God, who can't see what purpose there is, what hope there is, and who are in the dark. If you are in the dark, you are effectively blind. If it's pitch black, you can't see. And he comes to those who are in the dark, and that darkness can be of all sorts and shapes and sizes. And it can often be that we just are in the depths of depression. It feels like we're in a dark, dark place, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. And what Jesus is saying is that he's come to give sight, so that we're able to see beyond the present darkness and see that there is a God, to see what he's like, to see what his purpose is, to see that it's his world, to see what he's about, to see what he is intent upon doing. That, says Jesus, that's why I've come. Down at the bottom there, you'll see on the screen, he said elsewhere that he came to seek and to save the lost. And that's very much his theme as he begins his ministry in Nazareth, and his explanation of what Christmas is about, his coming into the world, is with a view to giving riches to those who are poor, giving freedom to those who are oppressed, and giving sight to those who are blind. And the astonishing thing is that it's a free gift that he gives in himself. God comes in person to give us himself in Jesus, and with him and in him we discover those riches, that freedom, and that sight being restored to us. And that's why we celebrate Christmas. That's why we sing as we do. Not because everything is all hunky-dory, but because he has come to give us hope in the midst of what otherwise is our despair. So let me round off with a prayer. Lord, we're glad of these few moments in the middle of the day just to quieten ourselves, to have the opportunity to meet and to speak with others, and at the same time just to take stock in a world that sometimes seems just totally crazy, in a world where for sure things are very unpredictable and often seem pretty bleak as well. And we're glad that the message of Christmas is the message of your having come in the person of Jesus to meet us in our need, because you've seen our need, and because you hear our cries, and because you feel our pain. And so you come in order to rescue us. And so we thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus. We thank you for the good news of those riches for those who are poor, of that freedom for those who are oppressed, that sight to those that are blind. And as you look upon us here today, you know the particular circumstances of each one. You know the problems that we face, the fears that we have, the anxieties that we harbor. And we ask, please, that you would indeed meet us and that you'd help us according to our need and enable us to know in some tangible way that Jesus has indeed come near to us and has spoken that word that brings riches, that brings freedom, that brings that sight to us as well. And we ask it all for his name's sake. Amen. Good. Well, enjoy the rest of your lunch. There's tea, coffee still on the go there, so do avail yourself of that. Next Wednesday, as I say, we're having a kind of Christmas special version, and I hope that you're in good singing voice as well for that. We'll do some singing through it as well, and then we take a break for a couple of weeks after that. But next Wednesday, same time, same place, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. God bless.